Gregory Peck was the very definition of Hollywood dignity, stoic, principled, and quietly commanding, both on-screen and off. To fans around the world, he was the noble Atticus Finch, the fearless captain in 12 O'Clock High, the soft-spoken gentleman who seemed to walk with a moral compass, unshakable by fame or ego. But behind that composed exterior, Gregory Peck was still a man, one with deep convictions, strong opinions, and as few people know, enemies. Yes, there were actors he respected, but there were also a select few he couldn't stomach. Actors whose arrogance, selfishness, or darkness ran so contrary to his own beliefs that he never forgave them. And he made it known. What caused Gregory Peck to clash with these stars? Was it politics, ego, or something far more personal? Over a 6-decade career, Peck worked with and walked away from some of the biggest names in the business. Some of them we still revere today. But Gregory Peck? He couldn't stand them. Before his passing in 2003, he left behind subtle clues and candid remarks about the Hollywood figures he quietly resented the most. And today we're going to reveal their names and the moments that made this legendary actor turn his back forever. This is the list Gregory Peck never published, but never forgot. Gregory Peck built his legacy not just on talent, but on integrity. Whether playing Atticus Finch or advocating for social justice off-screen, he was known for standing firm in his values. So when he found himself working alongside actors who mocked or trivialized those very ideals, the clash was inevitable. And no actor triggered his quiet fury more than Marlon Brando. Brando was a force of nature, raw, unpredictable, often brilliant, but deeply chaotic. By the time Peck was a household name built on discipline and structure, Brando had become the face of a new Hollywood, one that was wild, rebellious, and, in Peck's view, dangerously self-indulgent. While the two never shared the screen, they crossed paths many times in the industry and sat on opposing ends of Hollywood's evolving values. Brando's contempt for tradition and authority, on and off set, was something Peck never respected. He once privately referred to Brando as a man who confuses suffering with artistry. That wasn't a compliment. Peck, a devoted humanitarian and former president of the Academy of Motion Picture Arts and Sciences, was instrumental in bringing a sense of responsibility to Hollywood's public image. Brando, on the other hand, rejected that role, most famously snubbing the Oscars in 1973 and sending a Native American activist in his place. While some praised the bold political statement, Peck, who was known to support indigenous rights himself, felt Brando's stunt lacked sincerity and insulted the very institution Peck had worked to protect. "When you use your platform, mean what you say," he was quoted as saying afterward. "Don't just perform another role." Behind closed doors, those who knew Peck said he had a hard time even hearing Brando's name without bristling. The reason wasn't personal jealousy, it was deeper. Peck viewed acting as a discipline, a craft that demanded humility, respect, and emotional honesty. Brando, in his eyes, abused that gift. He saw him as a man so consumed by his own legend that he had lost touch with the basic decency required of a true artist. While many critics hailed Brando as a genius, Peck saw something else, a man who confused chaos with depth and selfishness with authenticity. The real breaking point may have come during the filming of Mutiny on the Bounty in 1962. Brando's outbursts, delays, and behind-the-scenes manipulation became industry legends and cautionary tales. While Peck wasn't in the film, he was being considered for a different seafaring role around the same time, and after witnessing the carnage from a distance, he pulled out of his project. He didn't want to be part of what he called the ego wars taking over major productions. Later, when asked if he would ever work with Brando, Peck gave a rare cold response. "I don't think we'd understand each other." But it wasn't just about acting styles. It was about philosophy. Peck believed that actors as public figures bore a responsibility to lead with dignity. Brando, in contrast, relished breaking the rules, tearing down systems, and living in the wreckage he left behind. For Gregory Peck, that wasn't courage. It was cowardice in disguise. Peck never mounted a public feud. He didn't rant in the press or lash out at his critics. But when he was asked late in life which actors he respected most, Brando's name was conspicuously absent. And when interviewers brought him up, Peck would grow quiet, his jaw tightening just enough to give him away. "There's brilliance," he once said with a shrug, "and then there's principle. I'd rather be remembered for the latter." And he was. Gregory Peck was not a man who held grudges lightly. He was known in Hollywood for his grace under pressure, his patience, and his quiet professionalism on set. But even the most composed men have their breaking points, and for Peck, that moment came during the filming of The Guns of Navarone in 1961. The source of his anger? His own co-star, Anthony Quinn. At first, the two seemed like a natural match, both Oscar winners, both respected leading men, both cast in a high-stakes World War II epic that demanded grit and gravitas. But beneath the surface, tension was brewing. From the earliest days of production, Peck reportedly grew irritated with Quinn's ego-driven behavior and his constant attempts to steal scenes. According to multiple crew members, Quinn frequently rewrote his dialogue, altered blocking, and added improvised gestures, often at the expense of Peck's own character. For Peck, who approached acting with military precision and deep respect for the script, this was more than unprofessional. It was insulting. Peck never shouted. He never caused a scene. But behind the curtain, he made his displeasure known. Director J. Lee Thompson later said that he had to carefully orchestrate certain shots just to keep the peace. Gregory thought Anthony was showboating, Thompson admitted. And frankly, he was. Even in press tours after the film's release, Peck struggled to hide his contempt. When asked about working with Quinn, he replied with a tight smile, "He's a very spirited actor. You never quite know what he'll do next. Whether that's good or bad depends on the day." The final straw came midway through production during a particularly intense sequence on the cliffside. Quinn allegedly refused to follow the carefully rehearsed stunt choreography, improvising his movements in a way that not only disrupted the scene, but endangered crew safety. Peck was furious, not just because of the danger, but because it signaled, in his eyes, a complete disregard for the collaborative nature of filmmaking. Peck believed that actors had a duty to the team, not just to their own ego, and in Anthony Quinn, he saw someone who put himself above the work. Years later, when both men were asked to participate in a Guns of Navarone retrospective, Peck declined. He told the organizers politely that he had said all he needed to say about the film. But those closest to him revealed the truth. He never forgave Quinn. In fact, he made it a personal rule never to work with him again, even when studio offers came pouring in. And it wasn't because of one bad day. It was because Quinn had violated something sacred to Peck: mutual respect. Perhaps most telling was a story recounted by a young actor who once asked Peck for advice on working with difficult co-stars. Peck reportedly told him, "There are some actors who make everything about themselves. They don't respect the story or the people around them. When you find yourself standing next to one of them, don't fight. Just finish the job and never go back." He never said Quinn's name, but he didn't need to. In the end, The Guns of Navarone was a success, critically and commercially. But for Gregory Peck, the memories of that set were stained. He took pride in the final product but never spoke of it fondly. And as the years passed, he rarely mentioned Quinn at all. To those who asked, he gave a diplomatic answer. It was a different time. But privately, he admitted, "Some performances you remember. Others you try to forget, and Quinn's he never wanted to see again." By the 1980s, Gregory Peck was an elder statesman in Hollywood, a man whose career had spanned decades and whose wisdom was widely sought by younger actors, producers, and even studio heads. He had earned the right to speak freely, and on more than one occasion, he used that right to voice concern about a young actor rising through the ranks with alarming speed: Warren Beatty. While many in the industry hailed Beatty as the next big thing, a gifted actor, visionary director, and undeniable box office draw, Peck saw something very different. He saw a storm coming. It wasn't about talent. Peck recognized Beatty's skill on screen, particularly in films like Bonnie and Clyde and Shampoo. But to Peck, Beatty represented a kind of Hollywood he had always feared: reckless, image-obsessed, and dangerously self-involved. "The camera loves him," Peck reportedly said in a closed-door Academy meeting. But I'm not sure he loves anything else. Peck's distaste for Beatty was rooted in more than just professional differences. It was philosophical. He believed in restraint, in serving the story, in humility. Beatty, by contrast, seemed to Peck like someone obsessed with control, seduction, and self-promotion. Their paths never officially crossed on set, but they often collided behind the scenes. In the late 1970s, both men were considered for a major political drama, Peck as a veteran senator, Beatty as the young idealist. Peck declined the project outright, allegedly telling his agent, "I'm not sharing a frame with someone who thinks fame is wisdom." That single sentence revealed the depth of his disdain. In private circles, Peck would caution producers and studio executives about Beatty's growing influence. He believed the industry was becoming too enamored with the cult of personality and not focused enough on character and craft. "They'll follow a pretty face right into the fire," he said. And when Beatty began directing films, like Heaven Can Wait and The Polarizing Reds, Peck was said to have rolled his eyes at the idea of an actor directing himself in near mythological terms. He viewed it as narcissism disguised as vision. It wasn't personal rivalry. Peck was already a legend by the time Beatty began reaching his peak. What concerned him more was the message being sent to the next generation of actors. In Beatty, Peck saw a man who blurred the lines between performance and persona. Everything was calculated. Every interview, every red carpet appearance, every relationship, especially those with his high-profile romantic partners, seemed like part of an endless PR campaign. "There's nothing real there," Peck once told a young director. "And that's dangerous in an industry that's supposed to be about truth." Even more troubling to Peck was the growing political influence actors like Beatty were beginning to wield. While Gregory Peck himself was a lifelong liberal who fought publicly for civil rights and nuclear disarmament, he did so quietly, with measured statements and long-term commitments. Beatty, on the other hand, launched into the political spotlight with showy activism and rumored White House ambitions. "He wants to be a star in every arena," Peck said. But real leaders don't need applause. As Beatty's fame grew, Peck faded further into semi-retirement, choosing to narrate documentaries and accept only occasional roles. But even then, when asked about modern Hollywood, he didn't hesitate to share his concerns. "Talent is only half the equation," he said. "Character is the rest, and some actors never find it." Though he never confronted Beatty publicly, those close to Gregory Peck knew the truth. He didn't hate Beatty for what he was. He feared what he represented, and that fear never left him. In the quiet twilight of his life, Gregory Peck remained a revered symbol of what Hollywood used to be, a man of restraint, depth, and timeless dignity. He didn't chase headlines. He didn't crave attention. But he did care, passionately, about the legacy of the film industry he helped build. And of all the actors he encountered in his long career, there was one who left a sour taste in his mouth that never quite faded: Steve McQueen. To the public, McQueen was the king of cool to Gregory Peck. He was something else entirely, reckless, selfish, and corrosive to the collaborative spirit of filmmaking. Though the two never worked together directly, they moved in the same elite circles of 1960s and 70s Hollywood. And what Peck saw at award shows, industry gatherings, and on the grapevine deeply disturbed him. He once remarked privately, "Steve doesn't act. He pouts, poses, and destroys every set he walks on." It wasn't just a matter of clashing styles. Peck was a classicist. He believed in preparation, patience, and discipline. McQueen represented everything Peck couldn't stand: method acting twisted into method misbehavior, wild partying, and on-set arrogance. Crews who had worked with both men often spoke of the stark contrast. Peck would show up early, script in hand, focused and ready. McQueen, he'd arrive late, demand changes, and leave early, his motorbike always waiting just off-set. One particularly frustrating moment for Peck came in the mid-1970s when both men were up for the same role in a major war film. The producers leaned toward McQueen, hoping to draw in a younger, edgier crowd. Peck was told they wanted fire, unpredictability, danger. His response was swift and cold. "If you want danger," he said, "hire a bomb. but don't call it acting. He withdrew from the project, citing creative misalignment, though those who knew the truth said he refused to participate in anything that gave McQueen center stage. Peck was also deeply disturbed by McQueen's influence on younger actors. He felt McQueen's image, a brooding rebel who rarely respected authority, was being misread as aspirational. "They're copying the worst of him," Peck once told a journalist. "Not the talent, but the tantrums. Not the passion, but the posture." In his eyes, McQueen's legacy wasn't artistic. It was behavioral. And for a man like Peck, who believed actors should be role models, that was unforgivable. But what truly solidified Peck's private disdain came in 1980, shortly before McQueen's death. There were rumors that McQueen, facing terminal illness, had reached out to several former Hollywood colleagues to make amends. Peck was not among them, and he didn't expect to be. "Some men try to fix what they broke," he told a friend at the time. "Others ride off into the sunset, with the fire still burning behind them." It was perhaps the most poetic condemnation he ever gave, and the most damning. Still, true to his nature, Gregory Peck never attacked McQueen in public. He didn't need to. His silence spoke volumes, and when asked in interviews about his thoughts on the younger generation of actors, he would simply say, "There are those who love the craft. And there are those who love the mirror." It was a thinly veiled jab, but everyone knew who he meant. Peck didn't hate easily. But when he did, it was rarely loud, it was lasting. And in the case of Steve McQueen, it was a quiet disapproval that never healed, even long after McQueen was gone.